September came and went in the blink of an eye, and it's already time for another review roundup. So let's go over everything we watched in the month of September, both on the big screen and the small, and both shows and movies we've discussed already on the channel, as well as those that didn't get their own videos for one reason or another. And this is definitely the latest roundup I've done so far, but it's as good a time as any to revisit that last lackluster month. And as always, there may be light spoilers for everything discussed herein, but nothing that would ruin the show or movie. On the small screen, the bulk of our time was spent ingesting the Rings of Power, and that's led to a lot of indigestion in trying to consume this show. Despite this season being ever so slightly better than the first in some regards, most of the main problems that Season 1 had are still very much present. The character and storyline sprawl are still big hurdles that the show is not clearing, and you seem to feel it even more than you did in Season 1. Every time we jump to Numenor or the Harfoots, it's extremely difficult to keep your interest level from dropping to zero. And in terms of how they're handling the lore, it at least feels even worse than how it was in the first season. The lore violations and contradictions are pretty much on par with those from the last season, but because we're getting more into the meat of Lord of the Rings lore, it just feels worse this time around. There are some improvements though, to be fair. Seeing Annatar deceive Celebrimbor into making the Rings of Power was something a lot of Tolkienites wanted to see, and that storyline has definitely been the best this season has had to offer. And the overall darker tone and tint to this season has been welcome, as well as Galadriel having less time to shit up the screen, which is addition by subtraction, I suppose. But overall, this second season has been very much the same laugh riot that Season 1 was, just with a few less horrific aspects this time. Now obviously the show has wrapped by the time you're watching this, but this is a September review roundup, so consider this section a glance into the past. Plus it's not like the finale suddenly fixed all these problems. Moving from the bad to the good, the Penguin so far has lived up to my expectations. As I said in my recommendation video, I loved the Batman, so I was very much looking forward to taking another trip to the grittier Gotham that movie introduced. This time diving deep into the criminal underworld. Colin Farrell continues to absolutely kill it, even under a metric ton of prosthetics. The Penguin has also brought us another great character in Sophia Falcone, who was a real surprise, as both of these characters just leave you begging for more. And the show came out swinging, drawing you into the story right off the bat. The kind you swing, not the ones with wings. I'm genuinely excited to see where this season goes, and I highly recommend you check it out for yourself, especially if you enjoyed the Batman. Now, the offerings on the big screen in September didn't have the same luster as those two shows do. There's been a decent number of releases, but just nothing that seemed to have much allure. I didn't get to too many movies this past month, which is partly due to time limitations, but the lack of excitement for September's slate of flicks played a role in that too. I did check out Speak No Evil. It's something I would usually skip, but James McAvoy seems to excel in playing utter psychopaths, so I gave it a shot. And it's mediocre, in my opinion. I think the premise is pretty good for a horror, psychological thriller. Spoilers, it's about two couples and their kids that meet on vacation and then take a trip to one of the family's homes. And eventually, the unsuspecting family discovers that their hosts have a penchant for seducing and killing other couples and taking their kids as their own. So it's a decent premise, but it's just lacking any real intriguing hooks or terrifying events. Plus, the husband ends up being a pretty big literal cuck, which is lame. It's a pretty slow burn too, not really getting going until the last 30 minutes. And it's chock full of extremely awkward social situations up until that point, so it makes you feel more uncomfortable than scared or horrified. And then we had Megalopolis, which was a favorite of the "you just don't get it" crowd. Unfortunately for them, that group of people in this instance mistook the backdrop for the film and world building for an actual story. The ideas that they tout this movie for masterfully portraying are nothing more than window dressing for an awful story that doesn't even bother to explore or expand upon those ideas. And the plethora of real historical quotes and pseudo-philosophical quotes peppered throughout the movie via narration tricked those people into thinking the movie was deeper than it actually is. Megalopolis failed to deliver a good or even coherent story. And storytelling is king. Movies are a storytelling medium after all. I didn't get to Transformers 1 or Wolves in September, both of which I wanted to check out but didn't have time. So if you saw either of those, let us know your thoughts in the comments. And as I was typing this, I actually forgot I watched Beetlejuice, which probably gives you an idea how I felt about it. Honestly, I thought it was fine, but clearly nothing special or memorable. It's pretty similar to the first one, and if you liked the original, I think this sequel has enough charm here and there to keep you entertained. And Halloween's right around the corner, so it's as good a time as any to give it a watch. Like I said at the outset, there wasn't too much to get excited about on the big screen this past month. As for what we've been watching just for ourselves, we've started the Aaron Hernandez installment of American Sports Story, about the football player turned murderer who chose the Epstein ending during his time in jail. This dramatized account of events seems to be taking his legal defenses in court and accepting them as true, so you have to take everything in it with a huge grain of salt. This isn't what you want to rely on for a truthful retelling of his story, but it's still interesting. I also didn't have time to get back to Snowpiercer, or start Agatha, or the second season of Tulsa King. Or Terminator Zero, which I heard has an interesting style. The first season of Tulsa King was so-so, but there's something funny about watching Stallone play a mafioso badass in his late 70s, and that leads to some hilarity from time to time. I've got more time this month though, so expect those shows to come up in the October roundup. And that'll do it for everything we watched in the month of September. As always, let us know what you thought about anything we talked about here, and let us know about anything you've been watching and what you thought about it. Also remember to leave a like and subscribe to HateWatchers for reviews of current shows and movies. Thank you for discussing the Epstein special during National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month with us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.